One of my favorite things to do is watch old movies in order to find out what people used to think the future would look like. Take the cinema classic Back to the Future Part 2. In that movie, our boy Marty McFly time travels to the distant year 2015, where technological breakthroughs like flying cars and self-lacing shoes are standard, but for some reason people are still reading physical newspapers. Though, to the filmmakers' credit, they were only a year off from the Cubs' World Series victory. On the whole, it seems that people are not very good at making accurate predictions of the future. Never was this more apparent than when Kevin Martinez, the marketing director for the Seattle Mariners, pitched the concept of Turn Ahead the Clock Night in the year 1998. Martinez, inspired by various Turn Back the Clock promotions Major League clubs had done over the years, decided to take his idea in the opposite direction, imagining what baseball would be like in the year 2027, the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Mariners. Now, baseball players are creatures of habit, and as Chris Sale can tell you, switching up something like their jersey can cause tension. However, when Seattle superstar Ken Griffey Jr. was approached with the idea of the futuristic uniforms, not only did he approve of them, he embraced the concept with open arms. According to Martinez, Griffey took over the design process for the jerseys, coming up with the idea to switch the color scheme from the M's traditional navy, teal, and white to a sleek crimson, black, and silver. Per Jr.'s request, the jerseys themselves were turned into vests, with an oversized compass rose on the front. Before the game, he went around the locker room spray painting his teammates' cleats silver and convincing them to cut off their sleeves. As a finishing touch, he insisted that the game be played with the players' caps backward. When Martinez complained that it would make them look like a softball team, Griffey just smiled and said, "It's the future, Kev. Anything is possible." The uniforms weren't the only things getting an upgrade as part of Turn Ahead the Clock Night. Prior to the game, the Seattle Kingdome was transformed into the Biodome, complete with 3 new additions to the team standings banners in the upper deck: the Pluto Mighty Pups, the Mercury Fire, and the Saturn Rings. The Mariners borrowed the Astros mascot, Orbit, for the event, decking him out in their future colors. Even the outfield wall signage was changed to have a more futuristic feel. When it came time for the first pitch, the ball was transported to the mound by a robot named Mr. Scraps, constructed at the University of Washington. The pitch itself was thrown by actor James Doohan, who played the role of Scotty on the original Star Trek. He made his way to the pitcher's mound via a DeLorean, which entered through a haze of lasers and dry ice in the left field tunnel. When the pregame lineups were introduced, all the lights in the stadium were turned off while the computerized announcer's voice read out the players' names, accompanied by various lasers and pyrotechnics. As for the game itself, the umpires, who were themselves decked out in silver shirts for the occasion, demanded that the Mariners tuck in their jerseys, since leaving them out, as was the original plan, made it easier for the batters to be hit by a pitch, giving them an unfair advantage. To their credit, the opposing Royals were good sports about the whole thing, donning gold vests with royal blue sleeves and white pants trimmed in blue and gold. Ken Griffey did his part on the field as well, going 3 for 5 with a pair of RBI. In the 7th inning, Alex Rodriguez broke the 4-4 tie with a 3-run homer, and the Mariners went on to win 8-5. The first ever Turn Ahead the Clock Night had been a success, attracting over 42,000 fans to the game. At the end of the season, Kevin Martinez took home the award for Best Promotion of the Year. But this wasn't the end for Turn Ahead the Clock Night. In an attempt to capitalize on the attention, Major League Baseball sold the rights to the concept to Century 21 as part of a league-wide promotion for the Real Estate Corporation. And, as is usually the case when a fun little one-off event is co-opted by a large company as part of a marketing campaign, the sequel to Turn Ahead the Clock Night was received with a lot less fanfare than the first. While all 30 clubs were intended to participate in the promotion, 8 of them outright refused right off the bat. Of the 22 remaining teams, most of them opted to use the exact same template, sleeveless jerseys with oversized logos on the front and names on the side of the number. And while there were some exceptions, like St. Louis's Robotic Cardinals and whatever the Mercury Mets were supposed to be, the cookie-cutter attitude taken in the design of the futuristic jerseys left the whole thing feeling sort of hollow. Pitcher Greg Hansel was quoted as saying, "It looks like Halloween came early." The games themselves, which were supposed to be set in the far-off year 2021, included touches such as renaming the positions. Shortstop was changed to intermediate station, and left field to left sector, and advertisements for Northwest Airlines changed to Northwest Space Lines, seen here during Butch Huskey's unfortunate encounter with the Metrodome wall. After the fact, Paul Lucas of ESPN perfectly summed up just what made the rehash of Turn Ahead the Clock night so lackluster. A concept that was goofy yet charming for one night became a bad joke when transmogrified into an extended vehicle for corporate sponsorship. And that's really what's at the crux of it all. The original event allowed the players to show off their personality with flair and a fair share of cheesiness. But the follow-up, as is the case with most sequels, retained only the superficial elements of its predecessor, stripping it of all the heart that made it so endearing in the first place. I guess what I'm getting at is this. People don't attend baseball games to watch the players go through the motions for 9 innings. If that were the case, out-of-the-park baseball sim games would be the #1 program on ESPN. On the other hand, people can tell when they're being fed corporate product placement under the guise of entertainment. So, on the off chance that an MLB executive is watching this video for some reason, I just have this to say. Let the players be themselves. The rest will follow.